Hi, in today's video I'm going to talk about synths and how to make them really big, cut through the mix. Just some techniques that I use and VSTs that I use to really fatten them up. So to start off with, I've just got a chord progression here. I'm using Synths with a preset that I've made. It's just a pretty basic saw. It's quite a nice saw. It's not that complex. It sounds like quite a big sound as it is. All I've got really is 4 saw waves on part A and part B, all detuned quite a bit. I've not really done anything else with it. A little bit of EQ, that's it. So the first thing I'm going to do is rearrange the chords. The set out like this, it would be quite nice just as like maybe a backing. It sounds nice as it is, but what I want is quite a stabby sort of melody, not melody, rhythm. So I'm just going to go for something fairly simple like that. Just going to cut them down a little bit like I've done with the first ones. Do them all in one. Now, one of the first things I'll do with this is go back into Synths and add a pitch mod envelope on A and B. And what this is going to do is going to give it sort of a bit more attack at the start. So I'll bring up the pitch a little bit, and then with the decay, I don't want too much. If I put quite a lot on, you can tell it's not really a nice sound. You just want a little bit, so right at the start it's dropping the pitch. So you can hear it's got quite a bit of more of a click at the start. If I switch that off and then back on, and I just want to play with this until I've got it sounding quite nice. That should do for now. So, first VST I'm going to stick on is an EQ, the Pro Q2. And we are clipping a little bit, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into silence. Just try and turn it down. Sometimes it's not as important, but I like to try and keep everything from clipping as much as I can. And what I'll do is drop the volume in the Pro Q2 a little bit anyway, just a couple of dB, because when I start EQing, it's going to raise the volume a little bit. So for instance, if I cut the lows, it's going to sort of push the sound into the rest of the frequencies. I'll try and demonstrate that. you can see there, we're hitting about minus 3.2. If I switch this low cut back on, at times we're getting right up to minus 0.2. It's not making that much of a difference, but I still like to try and keep the volume down just so we're not clipping. So the low cut, we want to cut, what I personally will cut about between 2 and 250. And you might think it sounds a lot better with that with the low in, but when it's being used along with the rest of a track, the bass and everything, you're really just making your bass a lot more muddy by leaving this in, and you're not really going to hear it. So it's better to cut it out. And then I'm going to do a high cut, maybe about 36 dB, and then I'm just going to hold the headphone button and slide it until I can just about hear it, and then I'm going to push it up a little bit more and cut it there. So I can still just about hear it there, not very much. Yeah. So I'm going to cut it about there. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to look for some nice frequencies, and at the same time, if any bad frequencies stand out, I'm going to cut them out. It's not as important at this point, because when I start introducing distortion VSTs and other VSTs that are going to shape the sound, then these frequencies might shift, especially with distortion. So I wouldn't spend too much time doing this now. I would do a more precise version of this at the end of the VST chain. That should be fine for now. I just wanted to shape the sound a little bit more. As you can see, because I've pushed the volume up on certain frequencies, we are clipping at certain points again. So I'm just going to drop it down a little bit. Take it down. 5.5 sounds about right. We still want some volume, but I'm just going to try and leave enough space for us to add stuff on, so I'm not constantly turning the volume down. So then from here, straight away, I'm going to get a FabFilter Saturn, and I'm going to do go to saturation, basic saturator, and then change both of the bands to clean tape. And as you can see, it's makes quite a bit of difference, but it does raise the volume a bit. So what I've got is the VU meter. So what I use this for is just have it over there, and I'll check the volume where we're hitting before the effect. So we're touching about -1. That's before FabFilter Saturn. So then I'll move it to after the Saturn, and you can see we're going right up. So I'm going to bring the volume down until we're touching about the same as without it. and then you can really hear what the effect is actually doing. When your VSTs are adding a load of volume, then you can't really tell as much what effect it's actually having on your sound. So I'm just tweaking the tone a little bit. We don't need to do a lot with the low frequency because, like I said, we've cut that out and we don't want to emphasize it too much. But we have got this middle bit here which we solo that. It's got quite a nice mid. I'll leave that on clean tape. So it's only really subtle, it's just adding a little bit of saturation to the sound. I'm going to leave the VU meter on and use this as we go through the chain. So next what I'm going to do is use Isotope Trash 2, and this usually does add a lot of volume, so it's good to use the VU meter to try and keep the volumes tamed. As I've done before in a previous video, I'm just going to use clip control just to fatten the sound up a bit. I'm going to bring the pre down to about -20, I'll tweak it in a second, and then the drive up. So we want to be touching about -1 to keep in line with what we've got so far. It's hard to tell what it's doing, but it's just sort of tightening the sound up a bit, just making it a little bit firmer. It makes all the difference later. Now I'm going to stick another Pro Q2 on to clean up the low end that Trash adds. It adds quite a lot of low down here. And if you can hear the sound there, it's not very nice. And it's just unnecessary, to be fair. It's pushing the sound up a bit, so I'm going to just drop it a tiny little bit. Oh no, sorry. I had the VU in the wrong place. No, so it's about fine like that. Now what I'm going to do is introduce some delay. And for my leads I like to use H delay. And I'll usually just use a preset and tweak it. One of the presets I like to use is wide delay. I'll switch the analog off. We only want a really little bit of the effect because later on we're going to put quite a large amount of compression on, which is going to really bring the delay out. So as long as that's, you can hear that in the background, it might even be a bit much. I'll try it on 5. And then reverb, which I usually use as acoustic. And I'm going to bring the dry up to just about 0. I'm going to put quite a long decay on. I wouldn't usually use much pre-delay or for a sound like this. What I will do is change the damping. I want the lows I don't want, so we don't want too much reverb on the lows, so I'm going to use the EQ to cut that off. If we switch to dry off, we can hear what we're doing, what sort of effect we're getting from the reverb. I'm probably going to cut the lows at about 400. I'll bring the dry back up. The reason I'm using delay and reverb on the actual channel and not sending it to a return track is because I want the compression to work with the actual sound on the reverb, and I'll show you in a second, but I feel like I can get it sounding a lot better like this than if I send it to a return track. I would be able to just put compression on the return track, but I just feel like it's easier this way. We are pushing the volume a little bit, that's probably the effect. I'll bring the dry down a little bit and the wet down. That's not too bad. And then now what I'm going to do is compression. Now you can use any compressor you want. I prefer to use a multiband compressor, and of multiband compressors I like to use the Vengeance multiband compressor, and usually I'll just use a preset because it's fantastic as it is. Maybe tweak it a little bit, drop the lows, but you can use something like OTT. I've only recently got OTT, so I'm not going to use it because I'm not used to using it, but you can get the same effect with other multiband compressors, but I've just straight out of the box I get a fantastic sound with this, so this is what I'm going to use. So the preset I use is either Dance Master 2 or Dance Master 3. It's quite a popular preset, to be honest. And straight away you can tell what it's doing. I'll try Dance Master 2 because sometimes either of them are better. You can hear the difference between the two. Dance Master 3's got quite a bit more of a mid sound, but you can tweak this anyway. The click that we added at the start with the pitch envelope just really comes out on Dance Master 2. I quite like that. So I'm going to switch the low off. And I'm just tweaking the channels, the frequencies. Also, as you can see, the VU meter, we are clipping. So what I'm going to do is use a utility before the compressor just to turn the volume down. That's about right, without going too precise. So that's fine for what we need it. So if I switch the utility and the compressor off, so it's around the same volume. And then with them on, and to show that working a bit better, I'm going to bring a little bit of bass in. I'll use something from here just for a bit of bass. What colour is this going to be? So I just want the bottom note. What's over here? So with the synth, I'm going to bring out some more of the frequencies that I like. Just that little push around 7K, 6.8K is quite nice. And what I'm going to do is play with this delay a little bit. See, because the chords are quite active and there's quite a lot going on, you don't get much chance to hear the delay anyway, so it's probably going to be when the actual pattern stops. But it does fill it out quite nicely. I'm still going to leave it quite low. I'm going to play with the reverb. Right, another thing that you can do, which I'm going to show you now, is, which I think I've shown in a previous video, is sidechain the reverb from the actual chords itself. Now with this, it's because I've done all the reverb on the same channel, it's a bit more difficult to do, but what I'm going to do is try and show you swapping over. Let's grab all the way down to the delay, cut that, and we'll stick that on the return channel. And then we're going to send it to the return channel here. I'm just going to... What we want to do is bring the dry all the way down on the reverb. And because I've now taken the compressor off the actual synth itself, let's turn it off. I'm just going to add a CLA 76. Just to give it a bit more punch. And I'm not going to leave the volume of the reverb this high, but for now I will, just until we've done the sidechain. And now, as usual, I'm using the Live 8 compressor because it's a much better compressor for sidechaining than the new one. And then channel 1 Silent 1 for the sidechain. I'm going to put the lock on 10 milliseconds. And the ratio, I'm just going to play with them. For now, I'm going to put it about just between 2 and 3. And this is just cleaning up the sound of the initial attack of the synth by ducking the reverb out of the way. So the attack, if you want the sound of the reverb to duck out of the way quicker, that you want a quicker attack. If you want the sound to return, the sound of the reverb to come back in quicker, you want a shorter release. So with a high release, it takes quite a long time for the volume of the reverb to come back in. And for this particular sound, we want it to come in quite quickly, so I'm going to bring the reverb back, the release back down to about 20 milliseconds. And I want it to be quite a strong effect. I'm going to tweak the reverb a little bit. Right, so I'm bringing the high cut down a little bit because I feel like the reverb's quite tinny. and I just want it to add to the sound of the synth really. So then I'm going to put a EQ Pro Q2 on, just on the reverb, just to tighten it up a little bit. Bring these highs down a little bit, not too much. Another thing that I need to do is change the multiband compressor again, because we've not got as much sound coming through the reverb channel now. The compressors in the multiband compressor aren't doing as much work as they were when they were on the channel itself. So what I'm going to do is just tighten it up a little bit, and this is just on the reverb. And then I'm going to tweak the sidechain compressor. Yeah, that's all I've got time for. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.